Hey, everybody, it's Anita Anello, your host on the Wealthy SAP podcast. And I have a new friend with me here today, Karina Groombridge. I'm super excited to talk with her today. She's coming to us all the way from Montreal. So we are currently recording this episode. What's the date even? January 30th. So I'm sure it's a little bit freezing where she is, but yeah.
Just a
So
little.
So, side note for everybody. All right. So, super excited to have you here with us, Karina. I know we had a great intro conversation. So, could you do a quick intro for yourself? Like, how did you get started? I know your business has been around for a little bit so far. And what were some of the steps that led you to where you are right now in your business?
Yes. So, hello, everyone. I'm super excited to be here. And thank you, Anita, for having me. Um, like you said, my name is Karina Groombridge, and I'm a business and mindset coach. And really, what got me to where I am today is having my babies, because I had three babies very close in age, and looking at them going, I can't tell you go follow your dreams and do your passion and make money doing something that you love because I wasn't doing that like at
Oh,
all.
oh,
And so that was for me was like my big um, turning point because forever I had this story of I don't know what I'm passionate about
mhm.
and I'm not sure. And like up until I was like 30. So by that point, the guidance that my parents gave me was like, well, keep getting educated, like keep going through the system, like do the check all the boxes. So I have a degree in mechanical engineering. I worked in the field for about 7 years, and that when I had my kids, that light bulb moment for me was when it went okay, I'm going to figure it out. Like, I don't know what it is still, but I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah,
And I think that's probably kind of what pulled me into the mindset piece because it was literally that one sentence in my brain that I shifted.
yeah.
And now I'm like living what I had dreamed of
Mm.
before when I was like, had my kids in diapers,
Yeah.
building my business, and like driving home in a snowstorm an hour away, like in time to kiss them goodnight and put them to bed. So I was like, no, we're not doing this.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so how many of you are listening right now and you've had the same epiphany moment, especially those of us that are moms,
Oh, yeah.
wives, moms, sisters, whatever, just women? We think we're told this information. They say that we should go get, I love education, by the way. Let me just put the foundation first.
Yes.
I love higher education. I'm all for it, but we think that that's the only path, the only way to be successful. And then we start going down that path. And what can happen, I don't know if this happened for you, Karina. I know it happened to me as well, is that I felt like I climbed the corporate ladder. I got to the top, super successful, looking around, going, is this it? Are you
Mm,
kidding me? I am
yeah.
not happy. I love what you said is that it's almost like you had maybe a series or moments in your life. Well, all of a sudden you realize, like, I don't know if I'm in the right spot and I need to make a change, right?
I knew I wasn't in the right spot, but I had up until then been afraid to make that change because I didn't know what the change should be.
Yeah.
So like the lack of clarity was like, okay, I'll just stay doing this.
Mm.
And then, having kids was like kind of the kick in the butt I needed.
Yeah, yeah. Isn't that so powerful? I know like in our part of our story, like I had started having children. I had used to travel a lot for my corporate job. And actually, even before I had kids, I remember thinking I met a young girl on a plane, and she was telling me about how she's traveled every week and she had young, like toddlers at home. And I could see like the tears welling up in her eyes as we were talking. And I thought to myself, I remember thinking to myself, I don't ever want to do that. Nothing that she wasn't doing anything wrong.
Mhm.
It was the reflection in myself as a
Yeah.
soon-to-be mom thinking, I don't want to leave my kids all the time. And so similar, like has anybody experienced what Karina and I are talking about, where we are kind of on this path, and then You can also think before you have children and even when you're pregnant, no problem. I'll go right back into where I'm going because the story that we tell ourselves, we've done this, we've done that, we've done all this work, we have all this education, I got to go do this thing. And then the baby comes out or multiple babies come out. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, I can't.
Like, oh, this changes things.
It really does. I mean, I like to say like for great moms, it really does. Right? Now, some take a little bit longer to get there than others, and that's totally cool. Right? You guys know when we talk on this show, like just be where you're at and acknowledge what you're at. What we're trying to do today is encourage you, especially as women, women of faith, moms, to be able to go after that next step in your journey to go after the purpose that you have. So, Karina, like what you said, I heard you say, I'm going to kind of paraphrase, so correct me if I got it wrong, please. You kind of knew that you wanted to do something different, but you weren't sure. Is that correct? So
Yeah.
like how did you get into the idea of like, well, what's next and kind of start to figure that piece out?
Yeah. So that's such a great question because, like, now looking back on it, it's super clear, very obvious. But when I was in it, there's obviously so much uncertainty, so much like, is this the right move? I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And for me, it was a matter of trial and error. I'm like, the story was like, okay, I don't know, so I'm going to figure it out. And then it was, okay, what about this thing? And what about this thing? And what about this thing? And I'd kind of like start to learn and be like, okay, I don't like this aspect. Or I started learning about sleep consulting because that was the world that I was in that moment. And then I was like, okay, I was like future pacing myself. Like, do I want to be doing this in 5 years when my kids are out of it? I'm like, no.
Yeah.
So, like, this is not for me. But it kind of led me down this track of like, oh, consulting businesses. Oh, there's this thing called coaching, which at the time it wasn't in my awareness. It wasn't like I didn't know other people who had coaches and all of it, but it kind of like checked all my boxes. Like
Oh,
I just loved the people aspect to it. And I kind of was able to take my years of engineering and problem solving and like looking at things differently
mhm.
to now people and like what's going on in your head? How is this showing up for you? What is this result? Like what result are you getting from this? And really like applying all of the learning that I have to this new direction. So I found that it was like I said, trial and error and also getting myself on board with like, oh, I could do this for a living.
Yeah.
That
Isn't
in my brain it didn't exist before.
Right, 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 right. Oh, so you're up in what is called, Myron Golden calls it level 4 of wealth creation, right? We stay up in our mind
Mm.
and ideation. And with that, the ideas that come to us are what create wealth in our lives. So that's side
Oh,
note. We maybe talk about that on another episode, but that
cool.
that's kind of where that comes from. That's awesome. I love what you said, Karina, about being able to like try stuff and figure it out. Because
Yep.
isn't it so interesting? I'm not sure why. I'm sure there's some scientific study about why we do this, but we can like I know I have a 19-year-old daughter and she's kind of walking through this right now. Like, well, what do you want to do as your next steps? You've done this, you've done that, you got this path, there's education, there's this, there's experience, there's passion. And then there's a little bit like, I don't know. And it's like I don't know why sometimes we think we have to solve everything. Like, what am I going to do for the rest of my life right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I've kind of coached my kids in the last number of years of like, don't worry about all that. Like, don't try to decide right now at 19 years old what you're going to do forever.
Yeah.
Just try to figure out what your next step is.
I love
You
that.
know, like you
Yes.
said, where do I maybe want to be in 5 years? If that's too overwhelming and somebody's listening to the podcast right now, dial it back and say, where do you want to be in maybe 3 years from now?
Yeah.
Right? I have another client that I work with, and one of the things that he struggles with all the time is when asked real pointed questions, part of his personality style as well. There's a lot of like, I don't know. I don't know is really hard to work with because there's not
Yep.
like okay now, right? And so what I've learned to do with him is kind of take it from different angles and pick apart the thing. So
Yeah.
the point in
He
saying,
probably does know, but it's just not.
He does, but
owning.
he needs different questions to trigger the what he knows.
Mm,
Yeah. Then rather than the just I'm a very direct personality style. And so it's like, well, what's the thing that you want to go after? That's what makes sense in my mind, but I have
yeah.
to take that idea kind of off and set it on the shelf and then be able to operate in a way that serves him the best. So, okay, so you didn't know, but I love that you said that you tried a bunch of stuff kind of like what I like to say, it's like you try on a jacket that
Yes. And
kind of
then
doesn't
figure out
fit,
like, do I like it? Does it
but it
fit?
doesn't really fit anymore. Like that's part that,
Yeah.
can I just say somebody, maybe hopefully set somebody free? That's actually part of the entrepreneurial journey.
I know, right?
Is the secret sauce is you try some things and you see if they fit. You try some things, they don't work out amazingly. But you learn. Then you try some things and you see some areas of
And
success
then they
in that.
stick. Yeah.
Yeah. And you kind of formulate your plan around the things that are working. So you're elevating the strengths and then minimizing the weaknesses. So, okay, keep going. I'm super excited to hear more. So you kind of tried some things on. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but like you tried some things, kind of worked, didn't really work, maybe some failures, great failures that you learned from, and then it was like, okay, now what? So then you kind of snuggled in, like settled into your sweet spot that you're in right now. So,
Yeah.
what do you do in your current business?
Yeah. So, what I help my clients with is really empowering them to create the results that they want in their business. So,
Okay.
and I do that predominantly through working on their mindset, through working on what is like holding them back, because we all put things in our way. Like we all, have these obstacles, have these roadblocks in our way. And my job is to find what those are
Mhm.
and help you overcome that.
Ooh, I love that.
Yes,
Okay.
because like we all have them to varying degrees. And when we sit there and kind of let them win and
Mhm.
let the I don't know just end there,
Mhm.
then we don't actually figure out what's beyond it.
Oh, okay. What are some of the most common things that do you see a theme in entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants? Do you see a theme that kind of is not everybody's the same. I'm not saying that, but like buckets of themes that kind of minds limiting mindset or thoughts that hold people back?
Yes. Well, there's a lot. There's a lot of like different flavors and different ways that it shows up. Um, the feeling of not enough
Ooh.
is a big one that kind of underpins a lot of decision making. It underpins a lot of like, oh, can I do this? Should I offer this? Should I like go here? And then that feeling of like not being enough comes up, and then you hold back and you pull back rather than being like, well, I don't know how it's going to play out, but we're going to see.
Yeah.
And just that one little shift is going to take you to much different places than, you know, staying still and holding yourself back. So there's that piece to it. I work a lot, as I mentioned, with women and putting in place boundaries because, oh my God, so many times it's like, oh, well, I overworked or I delegated, but then I took it back and it wasn't done well. So I went and did the work. And it's this constant like push pull with, I want to grow and I want to keep moving forward, but they keep like self-sabotaging and keep like leaking their energy, leaking their strength
Yeah.
from not having solid boundaries in place. So this is another big one that I'm talking about a lot with my clients.
Yeah. Especially if we've come from the corporate space and we were,
Yes.
I like to say, raised in a corporate environment that
Yep.
said, this is how we have to do things. And yeah, that can be very, it can be, I love the word that you use because it's spot on. It can be very self-sabotaging for us to
Yep.
be able to do that. And so that's awesome. Okay, tell me more.
Yeah. So let's see. In I work a lot in like hiring and bringing on a team, and a lot of my clients will struggle to because they want to support their team, they want to like grow, but they're not actually bringing on the right people.
Oh. Okay.
And it's interesting because it's not just throw up a posting of like, oh, I have this spot available. Like if you really want to cultivate a strong team, you have to do a lot of the work for yourself before being able to bring on and really um, figure out who's going to be a best fit. And then once you find that best fit, how are you going to operate and set the boundaries, set the like parameters so that you're supporting them to support you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. Okay. My brain is just exploded on some ideas.
So many different directions.
Well, I'm kind of actually thinking of some great resources. There's an excellent book around that same topic of hiring people, called Who Not How by Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan, Dan Kennedy. Where's my book? I'm so sorry. We'll make sure that the right link is in the show notes. But Who Not How is definitely the title of the book. Um, and he talks about in America in particular, I don't know how it is in Canada. Maybe this would be interesting. In America, we're taught to, when there's a problem to solve, we're taught to ask the question, how can I do that? And the challenge with that, the premise of the book is the problem with that, I'll even say, is that the question of how do I solve that puts it back on me. And then as the entrepreneur who's already, let's just be clear, you can move into the entrepreneurial world and it gives you an amazing opportunity to work twice as much and make almost nothing. Which
That
is
is an
not what we
ultimate
dream
goal.
about for our businesses. But
That's not the goal.
when I ask the question who sorry, when I ask the question how, then my brain is immediately thinking I have to solve that problem. Instead, the premise of the book is we should be asking the question who, like go find a who to go do that thing that's already an expert in that area. And I've done this as we've grown our team and then move people in and out of roles and stuff like that. What I found is that hiring folks that already had the expertise and then I layer in the specific things around
Mm,
my business on
yeah,
top of that. I've
a
tried
great combination.
yeah, I've tried hiring people from scratch. I've done the role and then hand it off to them, like all the variations in the time that I've been in business. But yeah, do you have any thoughts on that? Like being able, because you mentioned previously about somebody who maybe wants to kind of control a whole bunch of stuff and
Yeah.
not have some healthy boundaries. Like what's your thought on that, just that idea of being able to find somebody who's a who to fill the role, not a how, meaning I have to do it.
Yeah. Well, do you mean like how to go about doing that, or what do you mean?
Yeah, how would you coach somebody who says, it's my business, I've grown this baby, I want to be able to do
Yes.
this, but now I'm working twice as much as I used to. I need some help, Karina. I need to be able to build a team. Can you
Yeah.
break that down a little bit more and how we can help others to recognize we don't have to do it all ourselves?
Yes. So I think just that recognition of like, I want to grow and build a team. This is already a really big win because I know a lot of the time we can have that like if you look to 5 years or 3 years out, like what do you want your business to look like? And then you kind of bring it back to today. And it's like, well, if that's what I want 3 years from now, like what does business have to look like? What do I have to start building today to
Yeah.
get there? And if
Mhm.
you want a team of 20 people, 3 years down the line, operating the business with you and for you, then what has to happen today? So like there's that first shift that we need of like, I have to figure out how to delegate so that I can get to that place. And I
Yeah.
feel like that is step one to really going and growing your team because without that, it falls back to oh, but I can do it. Like let me like find time in my already packed schedule to do
Right.
it.
Right. Right.
And so I find that'll like really get you out of the do it yourself mode and get you into like, okay, who can support me in this?
Right.
And shifting the mentality of they could do it better than me.
Mm.
Because so often we're like, yeah, but I do it really well and it's so quick. I'll just do this little bit. Like, okay, we need you doing other things.
Yeah. Can I just say too, if you've been a habitual control freak, maybe you don't use those words like that's totally cool, or a closet, want to do it all kind of person, because I still fall into that category, like a recovering perfectionist.
Yep.
Um, I still have my team members who they'll say like, Anita, is that really, are you really supposed to be doing that task? We just last week. And I was like,
That's amazing.
it could I can just do it so fast. And they're like, yeah, but are you supposed to be doing that? Now I have given them the permission to speak to me that way because I want to
Yes.
be able to help them see. I want to know, I always want to know what my blind spots are, and I can't in the moment. I can think, no big deal. This will take an hour. It's no problem. The challenge is with that one task it never takes an hour. Let's just be clear. Everything always takes a little bit longer than we ever estimate. And so as the days go by and the hours go by, it was a sweet team member. And she's like, do you really think you're supposed to be doing that right now? And I'm like, but I think I can,
Like I can do it. I can
pounding
do
away
it.
on the computer while she's
Yeah.
talking to me. I got
Which,
it. I'm almost done right now.
but that's amazing that you were able to put that in place, like, you know, dial it back and you set that intention from the beginning of like, I want to know my blind spots. Like, tell me if you see something that maybe you should be doing, but I'm taking on. And I feel like setting that up for yourself is allowing your team to really truly support you, to like rein you in and be like, hey, you said you wanted us to do it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So
and when you can delegate it, then they get to learn and grow.
right.
So,
Right. That's awesome. Oh, I love that you just said that. It gives actually them the opportunity to grow and in the
yeah.
delegation. So also super good word. Um, can I just say, like, side note, once I was done with that task, I shouldn't have been doing it. I'm a visionary, right? Like I love to swim around at like the 100,000 foot view. I create high ticket offers for clients. Like I love being able to just spend time creatively thinking about different offers for different clients and doing all the research that it takes. When that task was done, even just a couple of hours sidetrack, it was a full on like distraction for me for a couple of hours. As soon as it was off my plate, my mind like completely opened up, and my stress levels came down that day. Like I remember sitting at the table at lunchtime that day being like, "Oh, okay, this is normal me." Like I can think,
Oh,
I'm creative, I got this. Like that whole thing was taken off my plate, and all of a sudden I was back to like, "Oh, there you are." Right?
yeah.
So for somebody who's listening today, that's one of those things that I would recommend, like listen clearly, because what we're talking about right now and getting some of those things off your plate. Okay, so another thing that I'm wondering, when we're in kind of startup mode and funds are tight, how do we, I don't know, you can say if you have some thoughts on this. Um, do you have some thoughts around like how do you help people to add team members if the budget's really tight or there is no budget whatsoever? Like, do you have some strategies around that?
Yeah, well, I feel like there's kind of the two courses of action. Most of the time, a lot of people will choose the I'll just bootstrap it, like I'll figure it out and do it myself, which like yes, let's get you money in the door. Like this is a priority. But also the way that I like to view it and frame it is if you delegate some of these tasks, is this going to generate you income?
Mhm.
Like how can this generate you income? And if that is the like it really depends on your business and like at what level you're at because some businesses need the clients coming in and then other businesses are like, okay, I have all the clients and I'm like capped out. But I like to frame it as like how is hiring someone like figure out which field you need, how is that going to bring you in clients?
Mhm.
And then see how you can make that budget work because if it's eating into your time and your resources, then you're not able to do the thing that you're really good at.
Right. Right.
So it's like yeah, okay, I have to do the big bookkeeping. Yeah, I have to do the invoice. Like I have to do all the things. But if you can outsource that for $25 an hour and your time is actually worth $150 an hour, like if you were to break it down, then like what makes sense here?
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. A friend of mine, Eileen, and I were talking about this recently, and one of the things that in the context I was talking about just sharing with her confidentially a situation with a potential client and just looking at the revenue in their business. And she's like, Anita, remember, we always coach our clients to if you're from zero revenue to 1 million, all your effort should be focused on sales. Like 100% of your effort. Don't worry about people, don't worry about systems, don't worry about any of that stuff. Because as we're thinking about this and talking about it, Karina, the other thing that's kind of going in the back of the mind is sales really actually solves a lot of these things, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
if I'm bringing I focus on high ticket offers. So if I'm bringing my offers to the marketplace, I have a 250K offer or a 100K offer, right? If I'm bringing those offers to the marketplace because I know they can solve problems in the businesses that I target and I know that I can get them the outcome that I'm looking for, then with that revenue, then I actually kind of re-engineer all the other help that I need, but
Yeah.
focusing on the sales
You need to
first.
get the sales in order to do that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah, 100%, right? And so, yeah, focusing on the sales first is a big piece because with money, we can do so many things in our businesses.
I know. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you ever, let's go back to mindset a little bit. How
Yeah.
about mindset around making money? What kind of
Yes.
roadblocks do you see around that?
Ooh, so many. Okay, let's see. Mindset around making money. Um, I see a lot of clients hold back or feel bad
Mhm.
for maybe charging what they want to charge or charging what they feel is justified or appropriate. So they hold back and they play small. This is a big one that's going to cap your revenue. And I like to say, like, you leave money on the table. Like we need to clean up this thinking. And I'm sure you can agree in order to stop leaving money on the table. So there's that piece to it. And just trying to think if there's something else. I would say it's like figuring out when you can grow and scale it. Like what is this going to mean for the impact that your business is doing? Like the more money that you can create. I know a lot of people I'll hear is like, it's like, oh, well, like I'm not in it for the money and like I'm doing this to help people. It's like, that's great. The more money you make, the more you can go and help people.
Yeah.
And like, I love to just keep making that correlation of like, let's make you more and more money so that you can go and do this thing that you're really good at, that you love, that you bring like such high integrity and high values to, so that more people can access it and not keep playing small and, have like this like tiny little impact because you're not sitting there reaching for the stars of like, okay, we're growing big. Like we're going for it.
Yeah. Isn't it so interesting, these ideas that we have around money that just float around in our mind that aren't
Uh,
actually true?
I
Just
know. I know. I like to tell people like so much of it is our thoughts, right? Like but we frame it in our head as if it's the truth. And
yeah,
I like to kind of like pull it back to if you were in a court and you were saying this out loud, like is everybody going to agree with you and be like, yes, that is a fact, that is true? Or are they going to be like, well, that doesn't work for me, or I don't think that, or and it's a really good exercise to kind of bring it back to like, wait, is this just in my head or is it like actually a fact of the matter?
right, right. Yeah, I was rereading Expert Secrets by Russell Brunson recently, and he's talking about how really one of the things that he says is we have when we have an idea, when we have an offer that comes in the marketplace, it's actually our moral obligation to bring that to the marketplace.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and
Yes.
then the other part is I have another friend, Jackie, and she's like, one of the things that happens when we charge lower ticket prices. So just to set the stage for our audience, just as a reminder. So when I say high ticket, I mean offers that are 10K and above. Okay. And so anything below that is yeah, when you talk around the internet, they'll say anything 2K and above is a high ticket offer. In the world, in the
Pets you
circles
talk
that
to.
I
Yeah.
swim around, like 10K and above is really where it's at. And so anything in the lower end, it's not that they don't have a place in our business. We're just not leading with those offers. But one of the things that we think about is that when we create lower ticket offers, it actually enables, I have a friend, Jackie, and she says this all the time, it actually enables dysfunction in our customers because people
Oh,
who pay pay
yes.
attention. And so when we're charging a lower amount, then what's happening is they're not recognizing the value that we bring to the table and they're not invested to be able to get the outcome that we want. And
Mm.
so in that, when we charge lower prices, we're doing a couple of things. We're signaling to the marketplace that actually we don't know what we're talking about. As we rate, and actually, when I
Yep.
raise my prices, something different happens. I start speaking to a different audience because high ticket buyers, not us as high ticket sellers, but high ticket buyers are actually they're looking for signals, evidence files that already line up in their brains that say, you know what you're talking about because you charge
Hmm.
higher dollar amount.
Yeah.
And so when we're in that 25K and above range is what I'm referring to. And so it's really interesting to share with our clients this thought process around high ticket versus low ticket and being I'm talking about high ticket offers that get incredible outcomes for somebody else and deliver massive value so that people can get the results that they're looking for. And when we do that and it signals to the marketplace, we actually know what we're talking about. So super,
Absolutely. Like you're going to turn away ideal clients if your prices are too low, which
yes.
is crazy to think about. But it's like, imagine if wanted a purse and somebody hands you a Walmart purse and you're like, mm-mm, nope, thanks. Like, okay, it works, but no, like it's not happening. And it's just so true. And I'm curious your thoughts because for me, what I think of like when you're raising your prices, when you're really offering high ticket, like your mindset needs to match. And this is kind of where my brain goes to, because if you don't have the confidence to back it, if you can't sit there and like stand behind the pricing that you have, then it's not going to work. Even if you say the right words, like the person on the other end is going to be like, they feel an incongruency.
That's right. Yeah, because we'll switch from like a confident energy to a needy energy, and we don't want
Mm,
needy. We don't want needy in sales, right? And
yeah.
so one of the things that I think there was kind of like an underlying question in there. One of the things that I do when we coach our clients is to be able to help them to say, like, yes, we're going to create offers that are 25K and above, but even if you're like, if you need to borrow my conviction, because we'll
Yeah.
build the offer that has all the
I,
elements that attract
yes.
the high ticket buyers, number one, because there's five elements that have to go in those offers anyway. But in that as well, I'll say to my clients, if you don't have the conviction, then go ahead and borrow mine. And if
Yes.
that doesn't work, that's okay. Just start where your level of conviction is, but make that at a minimum of 10K and then go from there. And what will happen is as those sales come in and the offer converts, then your own evidence
Yeah, it
pipeline,
raises the
yeah, will
bar.
start
Absolutely.
shifting. You'd be like, wait a minute. Oh my gosh. This offer delivers so much value to the marketplace and it sells, then you start boosting your way up from there. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
love the borrow my conviction. I do that with my clients too. And I'm like, okay, I'm like, I can see it for you.
Yeah.
Like, just take on my belief system here until you grow it for
If you
yourself.
need to, sure. Yeah. If
Yeah.
you need to, if
Like,
that's
steal
what,
that.
right?
You're
Yeah.
allowed to steal that.
So Anita says yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, Karina, how about maybe let's kind of start winding down around. Is there anything else that you want to add around? I know we talked about some great healthy boundaries. We talked a lot about mindset and shifting our minds towards what's possible. Um, do you ever, oh, I got one last great question for you. What about somebody who's stuck in like a lack or poverty mindset when really no matter who's in like in the United States, right? We have a brand new no matter who's in office, no matter what the
Mhm.
economy's saying, no matter what the news is saying, no matter what my grandmother's saying, no matter what my neighbor is saying, there is an abundance of business all around us. Like there's so much business for all of us to get. Like there's more than enough for you, more than enough for me, with more than enough to go around for our households, with more than enough left over. So how do you help somebody that might be in that, like stuck in that there's not enough to go around and everybody's competing, and instead help them shift gears to like, no, there's more than enough.
There's plenty. Yes.
Yes.
So, the way that I like to kind of like bring my clients on board with this, first you have to recognize where your head is at in the beginning, because you might not notice that you have a lack mindset. Like is a very like industry term, and going about your regular day, like you're probably not thinking, oh, I'm in a lack mindset. But if you're sitting there telling yourself like, oh, there's no clients, or it's hard to get clients, or like, the economy is doing terribly, and so therefore I can't, finish that sentence. And what I like to do is to get people to start finding all the evidence
Mm.
to disprove it.
Oh, nice.
Like, how can it be true that you can have a thriving business? Do you like, who do you know who is doing very well? Like, pull on all of the examples and like feed your brain all of the examples that you can find to support what you want to create.
Yeah.
And like, we do this in like a positive and a negative way. But for me, like, I want my clients to feed their brain more of what is going to support their growth and where they're headed. Because as you know, like there's so much to go around, there's so much abundance out there. And if we can't see it, then we're not going to go for it. Like you're not going to show up the same way if you're thinking like, oh, this isn't going to work, or it's too expensive, or nobody's buying, then you're not going to show up and make the sales and like get in front of people and make the ask and all of the things. So I would say like spend the time to find all the evidence for your brain so that this is no longer a question of like, oh, but is there enough? Like, yeah, there is. And we're gonna go find it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. Isn't it so interesting in our the I think probably one of the biggest things that holds us back as entrepreneurs, it's not that we need more strategy and tactics. It's that
Mhm.
we're just not aware of what exists
Yes,
all around us,
so true.
right? And if we could just help ourselves through coaching, through great mentoring, through reading great resources, through being willing to open our eyes to things where we can't unsee them, right? A simple example is I currently drive a white car and then I go buy a red car. And all of a sudden, I drive around my neighborhood and my city and my town, and I'm like, oh, there are red cars everywhere. The red cars already existed. They were
Mhm.
already there all the time. I just happen to be focused on, I drive a white car, therefore I see more white cars or whatever, right? My mind was unaware of everything that
Yeah.
already existed around me until made it become aware of what was there. So it's the same thing with business. It's the same thing with resources and
Yeah.
money and offers and all that kind of stuff. Like what we're talking about with um, abundance and an abundance of business is very, very similar, just using a different example so that our minds go
Yeah.
like, oh, that's the point. That's what you mean when you say that you just kind of have to make your mind aware of what the next step is, aware of what's possible, aware of the billions of dollars of business that are transacting
Yeah.
every day all around us. So,
Exactly. Because then you'll be able to see the opportunities that have always been there.
yes.
And just now your eyes are open to them and like, oh, okay, I can see it now. Like now I can go for it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Oh, Karina, it's been so amazing having you. So, are there any last thoughts before we wrap up our episode?
Oh, last thoughts. I love the idea of doing it afraid. And
Oh,
like, even when things are scary or it feels uncomfortable, but to go and normalize like those scary big decisions, we do them afraid. This is actually one of the episodes I just created for my podcast because so often there's that restraint of like, ooh, but it shouldn't feel this way. Like, actually, we need to feel this way more and more to get you out of your comfort zone.
oh, I'm chuckling also because I love what you just said, but I'm also thinking we're talking to audiences that are full of women and full of mothers.
Hmm.
So if we've all given birth, we can do some hard things. Like we don't need to be afraid to walk into a couple
Yes.
of things in business.
Yes. It's
We've
so
already done
true.
it.
It's so true.
That's awesome. Oh, well, Karina, I just want to thank you for being on the show today. And I really want to honor you, the way that you show up, the way that you have purpose in what you're doing, the way you serve your clients. I want to thank you for that really from the bottom of my heart. You are amazing. You have enriched our community today by helping us with your thoughts and your perspectives and helping people take one step forward on their entrepreneurial journey.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure chatting.
You bet. You bet. All right, everybody. We'll see you on the next episode. Take care.